Let's talk supply chain. So welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you, Sarah. So glad to be here.
I am so excited to have you on the show. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, and we did have you on our Women in Supply Chain series on the blog. So if you have not gone and read the blog about Shannon's journey, please head over to letstalksupplychain.com under Women in Supply Chain blog. Go and read it because you have a fascinating journey and you've been in supply chain for a while and really like your take on the industry. So talk to us about what's happening in the market right now. What are the challenges that you're seeing? What are people talking about?
Absolutely. So, some of the things that I'm seeing and that we're seeing coming out of the pandemic, information was so important to help address some of the supply chain challenges. And in my specific area, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, which is asset utilization, where's my stuff?
Where is my stuff?
During the pandemic, you couldn't get equipment. The wait times for things like trailers and chassis and even containers was 12, 18 months, and the prices exploded for these pieces of equipment. So what we saw was companies trying to better use their assets to make the most out of them because they knew that they weren't going to be able to buy them. Kind of coming out of the pandemic now where things are going, we've seen a bit of a slowdown, right? Volumes are down, equipment's easier to come by, and so now it's really about assessing and right-sizing your fleet and making better financial decisions about where you're investing in those assets you either have, you want to have, or potentially want to downsize.
Yeah, and everybody loves to hear that, right? Because it's all about the bottom line right now. Everybody's thinking about it, everybody's talking about it, and so it's really interesting, and I like the way that you showed us that shift, right? Where we kind of were in the pandemic, what the focus and how that shift is changing. So talk to us about BlackBerry Radar. I have been talking to you guys for a number of years to have you on the show because I think what you are doing in the industry, like everybody knows BlackBerry, but I don't know if they really understand the true value of BlackBerry Radar. And so now I really am so excited to hone in on that and let our audience know who is BlackBerry Radar and why, how you can help them. So talk to us about that.
So, Sarah, thank you for giving us this opportunity because, I've been really out at a number of events since I joined 6 months ago, BlackBerry Radar. And everybody knew BlackBerry when it was their favorite handset, the thing that we couldn't live
it was
without.
My favorite. I liked the keyboard.
We couldn't live without BlackBerry Messenger, right? BBM, the first sort of direct messenger. But most people don't know what we're doing today. And it's actually a really exciting story. So BlackBerry Radar, we've been in existence since 2016. So we've actually been working away and using all of our intellectual property and including all of the design capabilities we had in building handset hardware. But now we're building devices for the transportation industry.
Right.
So we have a very simple, rugged, reliable device, as you would expect from BlackBerry, right? We used to be able to toss those suckers across the room, and they kept using those. So same type of technology, but geared for transportation. So we're providing hundreds of data points for critical pieces of equipment that are needed in order to address supply chain visibility and asset utilization for companies.
So talk to us about the device itself. Paint us a picture. What does it look like? Like, is it tiny? Is it big? What are we putting it on?
So I want to say it's a little bit bigger than a stick of butter. That's probably the best way that I can describe it. One of the nice things about it is it's a simple device that can actually go on a chassis, a container, or a trailer. And it's 2 bolts. So what we like to say is you install it. It's also battery operated. So when you put it on these pieces of equipment, that battery is going to last 5 years. So you're going to install it and then forget about it.
Wow.
5 years and you can replace it. So, there's a lot of throwaway devices. I think we're all becoming more aware to sustainability and being ecologically friendly. So the fact that you can get a lot of use and wear out of this device is a huge advantage.
And it sounds like it's easy to install.
It's so easy. And the thing, rather than having a device for this piece of equipment and a different one for something else, our maintenance teams and the installers that install our equipment love the fact that it's one device. We tell them different places to install it in different positions, and and it's the same thing over and over again, makes their lives really easy, and then we can help organizations just maximize the data that comes off of it.
And so a typical customer, how many devices do they usually have?
So our main device, which I said is about the size of a stick of butter, is our H2. It's our gateway.
Okay.
So it's going to start collecting all of the GPS location, the speed, vibrations for impact detection. If you put it on a trailer or container door, it's going to tell you door open, door closed.
That's
but
handy.
Our secret weapon, if I could call it that,
Yes.
is actually a device now that goes inside the trailer or the container that's going to tell you what cargo utilization looks like.
Okay.
So how loaded, what percentage of cargo do you have in that container? And really, is it loaded or not? So when you think about situations where a carrier goes and drops off a trailer at a large retailer, when they need to go and pick that trailer up again, we have lots of customers who report that the cargo hasn't been offloaded. I just wasted a driver's time sending them to pick up that piece of equipment. Well, now you'll know the location of that asset, but you'll also know, hey, there's still 30% cargo in there. There's a couple of skids that need to come off that trailer. We actually aren't ready to go pick that up yet. So marrying both the physical location with the insides of that piece of equipment are really now enabling kind of next level efficiency in terms of making sure that those assets are in the right place and being utilized efficiently.
Awesome. So you talked about some of the benefits. Let's talk about more of the benefits. What are some of those benefits of having these devices on the trailers? I mean, the fact that you're talking about not sending in a driver to pick something up because it's not ready. I mean, that is huge. I mean, think about how much time is wasted for drivers going in, having to wait or leave and come back. And those are extra charges too. But walk me through some of the other benefits, because I'm pretty sure those devices are helping in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. So, there's so many different ways that the data can be leveraged. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Beyond just knowing the asset location, in our software, we have the ability to create geo-fences, right? So,
what is that? Before you go on,
what is geo-fence?
What is geo-fence?
Okay. So geo-fence is basically a digital perimeter that you can put around a specific location.
Okay.
So if I have a distribution center, as an example, I would draw a digital perimeter around that location. The reason why I want to do that is because when I have trucks coming in and out of that location, sometimes we'll use gates, right? There's somebody at a gate who's monitoring the ins and outs. Security, and we're recording the truck number or the container number that's going in and out. But that's a lot of manual collection of information. And so that's good, but we can do better. And so an electronic geofence combined with our asset tracking technology is going to allow you to digitally know what assets are in your yard or in your distribution center. So now all of a sudden I can come into work in the morning and I can pull a report that says I have 15 trailers that are in my yard. 5 of them are loaded, 10 of them are not. Maybe I have specific needs. I need a 53-foot axle, or I need a different size. You can assess all of that without ever sending somebody out to your yard. So being able to reduce those manual inputs, get rid of paper, you don't need to send a person out to the yard, is going to help. It also creates a lot of value for maintenance personnel. So one of the things that we've been doing with some of our customers is we can label your asset to say, this asset requires an inspection in the next 6 months. Well, that's great. We know that asset needs an inspection, but how do you know where it is at the point that 6 month time frame comes up? So now you can start assessing what needs to be reviewed by a specific location, and even get an alert when it crosses that geofence to say, hey, this asset just entered your yard, and ding, 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 it needs to be inspected.
It's kind of like that little sticker in your car for the oil change.
Yes, that's a very good example.
Right?
Yes.
Except for you get an electronic notification. See, I'd rather get an electronic notification than forget to look at that sticker. So what you're talking about is even better.
Yeah. So those geo-fences, those digital perimeters, they really allow you to monitor the ins and outs. One of the other efficiencies, and this has a bit of a sustainability play, I know it's also talked a lot about in the last mile side of our supply chain, is empty miles.
Oh,
right? How do companies start to address empty miles? You want to make use of the assets that you have. That little special sensor we talked about, we call it our A2 and our R2 accessories. But when it goes inside the trailer, it can start providing visibility into those backhaul situations.
Okay.
When that truck is coming back, is it not loaded? And how many miles am I driving overall that have cargo in them versus not having cargo? So you can start optimizing specific lanes. You can start looking for opportunities to maybe partner or collaborate with others who might be able to put cargo on those trucks. We love collaboration.
Yes, we do.
And really try to make the best use of that asset overall. So.
Well, and just think about it, right? Because if a truck, let's say there's an accident or a weather event, or it gets stuck at a client for a little bit longer than it intended, you then know you have a little bit of time to be able to find some of those loads to be able to help with those empty miles.
Yes, exactly.
And you're not scheduling it too early or too late.
Right, just in
Love
time.
that. Just in time. I knew there was a word for that. All right. So a lot of people are talking about mitigating risks, right? And visibility. So a lot of the examples that you shared really does go along the visibility route, right? Being able to visually see where your assets are and what the benefits are from that. Now, let's talk about risks, because people are looking at risk mitigation, right? They're looking at the bottom line heavily right now. So how do your devices, how does the data, how does the platform help your customers to really mitigate some of those risks and what are the risks that they're seeing?
A couple of the risks that come to mind, we talked a little bit about maintenance, right? So obviously maintaining
that's a huge risk. The safety is huge.
Safety for your drivers,
the people on the road.
To the people on the road, making sure that you're not being fined for not having safe assets on the road. I would also say, being able to know if something, we talked, I heard some of the sessions yesterday, and often a lot of the technologies that are here today at the event are helping deal with situations when they go wrong. Right? How do I learn that my container that was supposed to be, offloaded in Long Beach is now up in Oakland, as an example. So mitigating risk really is, I say, a lot of times we think we know what we know until we actually know what we know. And there's a slight difference there, right? And the difference is having the empirical data to say, okay, I now know that container's in Oakland, and now I need to let my customer know, rather than the customer calling, and then you spend hours or days trying to track something down. So mitigating risk is really about having the information in a usable way that can improve the way that you make decisions. I've always said that, the quality of your decisions is really based on the data that you have. If you have good data, you make good decisions. But if you don't have good data, can you really be sure that you're making the best decision?
Absolutely. Now, we've talked about trailers and the devices. Let's now switch to containers and intermodal. One of the conversations I've been having is that intermodal isn't used as much as it should be. And I'm wondering, is it because we don't have, I know it's because of predictability, but I think the devices would help. So talk to us about how they help on the container side and the intermodal side as well.
Absolutely. So BlackBerry Radar, we've actually been very focused in intermodal. That's been an area where we've actually spent the majority of our time. And intermodal is really the containers and the chassis, right, that are moving those containers. So a couple of the different ways that we're helping organizations in that space is, so chassis, as an example, are been a resource that has been desperately needed. During COVID, right?
And they get displaced all the time.
They get lost, and people take them. I hear all these stories of people just randomly taking chassis.
For what, people?
I know, it's crazy. But the devices can really then help establish again, are they mounted or are they bare? This is a very, very simple piece of information, but is very helpful in terms of understanding what equipment you have available to dispatch or not. And so we see a lot of our leasing customers investing in the technology, both for themselves to know where the asset is, but for customers to be able to know how to better use those pieces of equipment. On the container side, we have customers right now that are putting the devices on containers that are over in Asia, coming back to Vancouver in Canada, and into the U.S. as well. But I would say beyond GPS, and this is something that I'm really passionate about, because I think GPS and location is going to be table stakes if it isn't already, right? Everybody wants to know where their equipment is. But think about the value of the cargo that's inside those containers. I heard this morning, I think you were talking with DHL, $33 trillion worth of goods that are sitting in containers. That's a lot of stuff. So now for me, and what we're seeing with customers, is that next level visibility, which is putting a device inside the container to give them the details that they need on the condition. Impact detection. Was that container, when it was loaded on that ship, was it dropped aggressively? Did it damage the cargo? Did it damage the box?
You know ahead of time.
You have that. And so if you're going to get into a discussion about a claim or damages, don't argue about what you think you know. Use the information that can be taken from these devices and help better manage your business and your business relationships.
I remember getting a question when I was working for a freight forwarder in 2016 about why she could not see where in the ocean her container was. And I was like, and I kind of chuckled, because realistically, it should have been something that we could do back then. But it was something that we absolutely didn't have, and we didn't have the information to give her. But that's what people expected back in 2016. So now is the time that we really need to get those devices on the asset so we know. I mean, it's the difference between keeping a customer and losing a customer.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think that right now a lot of organizations are trying to right-size their equipment. They might have had to acquire a lot of extra equipment because of the pandemic and because of volumes. Now they're making decisions to maybe return some leased equipment, maybe sell off some equipment that they've had. And their ability to make that decision in the best interest of their company really should come down to understanding how those assets are being utilized. We're starting to see a lot of companies want to extend the data into other systems, right? Billing systems. In the intermodal world that we're talking about, there's a lot of detention fees. So much waste and extra expense. When you can measure the time that those assets are spending dwelling at, let's say, a customer's yard, and know that empirically and marry it to your billing system, well, next thing you know, you've got a good invoice with the right information on it that you can share with your customer that they feel good about, and you eliminate a lot of the friction in the reconciliation and in the invoicing process. So, so much to do.
But I feel like I hear a sigh of relief from the audience right now, because they're like, that's what I need. So talk us through the reporting side of it. What does the reporting look like? If I'm a customer, I'm looking for devices from you, but I want to know what the platform's going to do for me. What's the reporting? What's the alerts? What's the notifications? What's that big red siren?
So the big red siren. So we have, as you might expect, we've got a really great user interface that with a map view gives you the ability to visualize all your little pins on the map, all of your assets, which is really great at a high level. But let's face it, if you're in dispatch, you're not looking to see where your assets are based on a map. So we generate a lot of reports and dashboards with the information that's coming off those devices, with the ability to build in business logic, such as how long is an acceptable amount of dwell in a customer yard, as an example.
Okay, so if somebody puts like a month and somebody puts 10 days, they can build that in, and it's customized.
That, right?
Love that.
And if you have different customer locations and your expectation for a very demanding retailer is, let's say, 2 hours, but in your own yard it might be 2 days, yes, you can customize that.
Cool.
So we really believe that every business has different business rules and different logic that they're working towards.
Yeah.
So all of those events, we call them events in our platform, can be customized so that you're making the use out of the information in the best possible way.
Cool.
All of our information is also accessible via our API. So we're seeing more and more customers, and especially the larger ones, who really want to be able to take that data and, like I said, marry it into their billing system. We've got direct integrations with transportation management systems, trying to unite a lot of these disparate systems. I think is, you know, a big focus, a lot of talk about data integration and collaboration. So we're very focused on making sure that our data can line up with other systems that customers are using.
Love to hear that. So if I'm sitting in the audience watching or listening to this, who am I? What do I look like as far as being your ideal client in the fact that I want to pick up the phone and call you?
Yeah. So we work across all types of transportation companies, anyone that owns their own assets, or I would say is leasing assets to end customers. If you have assets that you want to better utilize, of all shapes and sizes. We've got customers who have 10 assets, and we have customers that have 5,000 assets.
Okay.
So really anyone in that mix would be ideal for a BlackBerry Radar.
Awesome. So now it's story time. Walk us through a case study. What was a challenge that a customer came to you with? I mean, obviously the solution is the devices, but what was the ROI and benefit that they saw?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually going to share a story that came up on a webinar that we did about a month and a half ago with a transportation company in the agriculture space.
Okay.
So a couple of different things come to mind with this customer because their vehicles are operating in some of the most rural parts of North America. And so coverage and reliability of data is really important. And that's something that we are very proud of, that we're very reliable in the data that we provide. But their trucks that are actually collecting peanuts, they harvest most of the peanuts that would go into anything that we eat here in North America.
Okay.
They were on average seeing about a $1.5 million investment needed every year to acquire more assets.
Wow.
And very bright CEO at the company decided to make the investment in BlackBerry Radar.
Okay.
And obviously the expenses attached to those assets was huge. And the manpower that they were using to really go out and understand at all of these rural locations what assets were there was time consuming. A lot of phone calls, a lot of chasing information.
Yeah.
So now they've been able to digitize this view of all of their equipment.
Okay.
And literally within 30 days, they were able to start seeing a reduction in the number of resource hours that they were spending tracking equipment. And at the end of the first year of their investment with us, they've now realized they don't need that $1.5 million investment in assets anymore because they can utilize the equipment that they already have.
Wow.
And we hear this time and time again. There's a great carrier we work with up in Canada, and they've been with us for a number of years. But 20% of their operating expenses that they would typically use to purchase new equipment, they've been able to defer that into more technology investments.
Wow.
Increase the wages of their dispatchers and their drivers because they're not having to buy as much equipment as they would have in the past.
Amazing.
And they're delighting their customers because they share information about, I think of a big retailer that they're supporting. Dear retailer, in the morning, you've got 10 trailers there, 6 are loaded, 3 are not. Last night the team didn't get to as many of those boxes. Do you need help? Do you need more empties? Do you need this? And now all of a sudden they're creating this value add service for their customer, which is in turn generating revenue and goodwill. And so it's about what you do with the data, but those organizations that are using the information to make more data-driven decisions are reducing their capital investment. They're reducing maintenance by
new revenue streams. Happy talent. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about how we need more talent, or how do we keep the talent that we have. That's one good example right there because they got increases.
Absolutely.
Like those are some amazing stories. And that's what we want to hear, right? Because we want to be able to visualize what it's going to look like when we come and work with you. And knowing what other companies have done and been able to do within their organizations with your devices, your platform, your reporting. I mean, that's amazing. 1.5 million back on your bottom line. Who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't want that,
right? So what does the future hold for BlackBerry Radar?
Yeah, great question. So we're going to continue to be very focused in intermodal. We see this as a part of the industry that continues to need and benefit from digitization. We're very excited, and you're going to hear more from us in the next 12 months on our support within the rail aspect of intermodal. We don't talk about rail that often, but it's a very important part, and Radar is doing some pretty cool things to help support that part of the industry. And I think you're going to see more from us on really building out the software side of our business and the integration of data. We see more and more customers who, let's say, are growing through acquisition. They might have devices with BlackBerry Radar, they might have devices with some of our competitors. We want to be able to provide that single pane of glass view of all of their assets.
Nice.
So we want to be very easy to integrate information into and also provide so that customers are really able to make the best decisions possible for their assets.
Amazing, amazing. I may have somebody that you might want to talk to about rail, so we'll take that offline.
Perfect.
But where can people get a hold of you? Where can they find more information about BlackBerry Radar? Give them the website, tell them where to go.
Yeah, you can absolutely reach us at blackberry.com/radar. You can look for us on the website. You can reach out to myself directly. I'm sure we'll share details for me and the team. But
Shannon Hamilton on LinkedIn. Go and connect. Go send a message. And I'm so glad that we were able to really dive a little bit deeper into the BlackBerry brand and how you've expanded into Radar. And really, I mean, you're making so much difference in a variety of different ways in an organization. And so I would really highly recommend that you go and check out BlackBerry Radar, go and connect with Shannon, and just thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone.